let's talk about the Iron Claw. Alan and I have both now seen it. And Alan, why don't you tell us the story of the Iron Claw?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far we should get into the story, but the story is about the famous Von Erich family out of Texas. Uh, Basically, story is uh, we have Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich. He's the oldest son, although there was an older son who died in childhood, and they live under the rule of their wrestler father, who is very strict. And in the trailers, you know that he has a ranking system for all his sons, and that as the sons progress, they can move up and down the rankings to take that number one spot. And so in this, brother Kerry, who is part of who is at college athlete who's destined to go to the Olympics. Well, thanks to Jimmy Carter and the Russians, for that matter, the U.S. pulled out of the Olympics, and Kerry is brought back, never having the chance to go to the Olympics. And basically, it's all about the sons getting into the father's business, into the business of wrestling. And all of them, there's 4 of them. One of them really isn't a wrestler. He wants to be a musician. And then there's David, who is considered from interviews I've heard from Ric Flair and a whole bunch of other people, David is probably the best one of the 4. And it's their story, but it becomes a tragic story, and we'll just leave it at that. I think you're right in the sense of last time you talked about it. If you don't know about the Von Erich family, don't look it up until you see the movie, because it'll just mean that much more. And for me, it was, I knew, WWF was wrestling in Southern California. That's all we knew. And so I would read the wrestling mags, and that's how I knew of the Von Erichs. I didn't know them I've never seen them wrestle, but I knew of their tragic story. And this movie, I think it does honor to it from what I'm hearing. I personally love this movie, and the ending will break your heart. There's a conversation with Kevin and his sons that will break your heart.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into that or anything spoilerish, but after I saw the film, I did look up the story of the Von Erich brothers, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. The true story. There are other YouTube videos also that kind of go through the real history.
Yeah, people are mentioning Dark Side of the Ring, which I believe is a good telling of that story as well.
Yeah, it's directed by Sean Durkin, who's his filmography is not. He does a lot of. Looks like he does a lot of TV stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But he did have a film. He won the Dramatic Directing Award at the 2011 Sundance Film Festival for Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. That film, which is a movie I completely forgot existed. But I'll just say this: he did a tremendous job. Timothy Sean Durkin, the director of this, did a fantastic job with this, because what he did was he really instilled the humanity, the relationship, the kinship with these brothers, and how the family was so tight knit. I mean, if one of the brothers got hurt, it hurt all the brothers, right? Like, and the other thing about this that is worth noting is the performances of Jeremy Allen White, Zac Efron, and Harris Dickinson, who was not initially interested in wrestling. There's a couple things they did. One, Sean Durkin used these lenses that made them look bigger than life. Mm-hmm. Because I may actually be a little taller than Zac Efron. I'm 5'10". Zac Efron's not short. He's probably like my height-ish. But he's not a big guy. He's not a built guy, but he apparently did like tons of before. And this is a trick. And Brad Pitt used this trick too, and also Tom Cruise has done this as well. The trick is what you do is you do push-ups before the camera rolls, so that when it just sort of gets the blood flowing to the muscles in your chest and abs, and it literally, not to quote an SNL sketch, pumps you up. So he looked way bigger than life in the film. Both Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, and Harris Dickinson. Mm-hmm. Before they did these scenes, it was like, okay, push ups. Okay, now go, right? So I love it. The wrestling scenes are fun. It's like any good biopic. It's the loves, the highs, and it's the lows. Also, amazing soundtrack. Since it takes place in the 80s, you've got everything from like Blue Oyster Cult to
Yeah.
Rush.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My understanding is the Rush song was the entrance theme for the Von Erichs.
Yeah, yeah. And also the director is Canadian, so that makes sense. Rush being a Canadian band, I loved Rush when I was a kid. 2112, the concept album, I listened over and over when I was in high school. It's like a science fiction it's a science fiction opera told through song. I'm probably going to listen to it now.
Yeah.
Now that I just put that in my head. But I thoroughly love this film. Cannot recommend it enough. Probably 9 out of 10 for me, if not higher. And one of my once I do, we haven't done yet, but we will do before the end of the year, Alan. We're both going to do top 10 lists. This is on the list for me.
Yeah,
What are
absolutely.
your thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like Godzilla, it's not necessarily about the wrestling, but it's about the family dynamic, and it's captured beautifully here. It's captured tragically here. And you just, I mean, Zac Efron, his performance is very subtle. It's very low energy, but you feel, as the events of the family occur, you just feel everything he's going through, and it sets up perfectly his relationship with his wife and his 2 sons at that point. And it's just a very emotional story. And the wrestling is not bad either. It does feel like indie wrestling, and if you know anything about the way wrestling is portrayed in television today in movies, Chavo Guerrero is has been training a lot of these actors to be wrestlers, and Chavo is very good at it and gives them enough skills to make it look legit. And I will say, so I think we're gonna get to a Ric Flair comment. The whole Ric Flair scenes are hilarious, and if you hate the Ultimate Warrior, you're gonna love a moment in there as well.
Wait, okay, who played Ric Flair?
I don't know. I don't know his name.
He was under so much, like, it was great. Yeah, we'd have to look it up on.
I believe he's a wrestler, an indie wrestler. So I don't know who it is.
Okay, yeah, it's not like, but it was so good. It felt so accurate.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and if you're an AEW fan, MJF barely appears in the movie, and he's an executive producer as well.
Well, but it does what every great biopic does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen the trailer, it's even better than the trailer shows it to be. And my God, the use of music, everything about it. And it takes you back to Iron Claw takes you back to like movies that you fall in love with. It's just, can't say enough good words about it. Alan, you recommend it.
Absolutely. It will be on that top 10 list. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so it makes both of our top 10 lists. What would you give it in terms of a ranking? How would you rank? Wait a second, Alan Ng, how would you rank the Iron Claw among the movies of the year? Alan Ng, I'm calling you out, Alan Ng.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely top 5.
It's top 5 of the year for the Iron Claw. The Iron Claw.
Yeah, it'll be against him and Jeffrey Wright. Zac Efron versus Jeffrey Wright.